Here we go.
Hey, gang.
No, not yet. It says preparing to live.
Oh, hey, gang, you right in the.
5, 4, 3, 2, and 1.
Here we go.
So it's live.
Oh, I heard that.
Oh, that's it. That's the ticket
Crack
there.
it open.
Yep.
Yes. Yeah. Well, hey, gang. Appreciate everybody tuning in this week. I know last week we had a very, very special show. We were very honored to have that discussion and super proud. This week we're kind of going in a little bit of a different direction, and we're talking about, I'm drawing a blank. I know what we're talking about. We're talking about carrier vetting and broker vetting as well. And we're just going to dive a little bit into that and drink some beer. So just want to appreciate all of you for tuning in.
Biggest thing is, carrier vetting, which obviously is huge. It's just something you got to do, but also carriers vetting for, brokers they use. And then also, vetting shippers, whether or not they're a good fit. A lot of pressure on people for sales and whatnot, but you got to land an account. You come across Tony, good luck. You know what I mean? So choose wisely on that too, because there could be a lot of time wasted and a lot of money wasted doing something that is a little bit more profitable, a little bit better for you as a company as well.
I have a question out of the gate.
Shoot it.
So I've met a few brokers that are doing their own thing. They're new into the broker game.
Mm-hmm.
And the tendency is that they hear that they need 1 year minimum of authority before people give them a decent shot. So just with your background, have you guys experienced that or what your thoughts are? I know there's a whole risk component involved in that, but for people, there's two people in particular I'm thinking of that just started doing their own little side gig.
That are brokers?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's going to happen. So that's a lot of times those restrictions will get more and more strict with certain companies that have built to that quota. So as a broker, if you feel your carrier base and you've got a pretty good solid carrier base, pretty large, you may raise your requirements to a year to 6. A lot of them are 6 months. For a carrier to be in business, you may raise it to a year. And so
I worked for companies where, we wouldn't work with the carrier who hadn't had their authority, less than 6 months. There's a lot of fraud potential. There's just, and it's hard. It's hard for those guys kind of starting out but there are people that will work with them, but there's some companies that just kind of set that baseline. I know that's from the previous places that I've worked at.
It's the same thing for
you
brokers.
Almost have to pay your dues a little while first.
Right. Your biggest thing is just trying to build a relationship and starting local. When I was starting a brokerage, for a couple months there at the beginning of last year, I just happened to, I was like, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and just get this book off Amazon. I think I had a free credit for it. And it was like starting up a brokerage, like the basics, the very beginning. Right. And I could skim through a lot of this, but the one thing that he really harped on the first chapter was going local, going to, your chamber of commerce, going to local meetings and meeting, going to shippers and, relationships, people, that'll give you a shot to get in and build a referral base. And you're just starting. That's part of any type of sales company. So.
Interesting.
Good question.
Yes. Very good question. And you find,
I know we have a listener. Well, they're supposed to be listening because this is right up their alley. So they had a lot of questions. And I'm like, the guys will know the answers for you.
Everybody that asks me, I tell them the best thing you can do is get out to everybody shipping anything that you can drive to and be in front of. Press the flesh, get out there and build trust, build relationships with those people that are in your neighborhood, in your backyard. Go find your local shippers and win their business, earn it, pay your dues, learn how to do it with the 2 or 3 people that you can apologize to in person and fix their thing on the weekend or whatever, and just take care of it.
And that way, have yourself ready. Ask for a shot, but don't just ask for a shot in the dark. Have a referral sheet put together. Maybe have a letter written out, have a couple different things, so maybe some past experiences, that you've had before, maybe almost like a resume, to where, there's times that, in a tough lane or whatnot, a company may say, hey, listen, I know our restrictions are this and that, but let's go find some new carriers, but let's interview them. Let's talk to them. Let's understand the ins and outs of what they're doing, and be transparent, be vulnerable a little bit, transparent, and just say, this is what I've got, but, ask for a shot. I mean, I think the biggest thing is you can always sell it on, as long as you have everything laid out for them, it's not just shot in the dark. You can always sell it on the whole, you could be the one that discovered, X logistics or whatever it is, gave us our start. We won't forget that type of thing. So
here's the other thing you need to remember. If you're going in there and knocking on the door as a new brokerage, the shipper, literally my job is on the line based on your performance. I have to be able to trust you with my job. Mm-hmm. I get graded for every shipment that goes out. We have on-time delivery. I have price and budgets I have to meet. All of those things that are like the selling points have to happen. Otherwise, I'm not the shipper anymore, and there's going to be some other dude in there, and he's going to bring his contacts he's already got.
That's a key point, just in general, in business and even in sales, but like building an account as well, is letting the shipper know, the guy that you're working with, know that you do know either A, how to do his job, or what his job it composes of. Don't ever tell them how to do it. They don't like that. Nope. But just understanding, little things like, hey, I understand you got pressure on this end, and I understand that you may be running into this. I see this, or, I get that it's probably coming down from here or there, or whatever it is. But this is what we could do. So just little things like that, where you're really empathizing with them, because at the end of the day, it's if you can help them I always say this, if you can make their job easier, you could be the go-to. They're going to give you better rates. They're going to give you more loads, because at the end of the day, they've got a boss they got to answer to. And the more that freight is taken care of, the less they, have to answer to them. And it also justifying, right? Explaining why you're bidding what you're bidding, why you're doing what you're doing. That way, if their boss does come to them, they'll be like, well, talk to them. TJ over there, he said, with this going on, this is what we got, this is what's happening, and blah, 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 blah. And that manager may just be needing an explanation. Be okay, cool. That's all I needed. So
managers that I've ever had, they don't know anything about freight. You can tell them that you can tell them whatever you want. They don't.
There's
care.
a Conestoga strike in northern Iowa, so
Right.
I had to go with 4,800 from Florida to North Carolina in a dry van.
And they have no idea what a Conestoga is.
Absolutely.
Half of them. No offense, I'm just saying the guys in charge of the plant, the shipper's boss, they don't know what you're talking about anyway.
Everybody should know Connie's.
You got to sell the shipper on the fact that you'll handle it for them. You'll take care of it. Your little hashtag there, TJ. Sorry.
And it also comes down to having experience, and even when you're talking to a shipper and you're building that relationship, I've always said, don't be afraid to offer another solution. If you can find a way to make it better that maybe that person wasn't thinking of, or they didn't think about, and it makes it easier, it's almost like consultative in a way, and you can position it the right way. Well, hey, have you thought about this? Or hey, why don't we try this? And I think this might help you. And then you're trying to solve their problems, not trying to just say, I'm going to save you 20%. So, that's always an approach that I've taken in the past, is, trying to offer different ways to make their pain points easy. And then two, kind of piggybacking on the communication part, a saying that I've always said is, no one minds bad news in this industry. Just no one likes surprises. Because if I don't tell Tony that something happened and his boss has to ask him what's going on and he can't answer him.
Yep.
That's where the problem is.
That's true in everything. I tell that to, all my employees. I tell them that, like, listen, I very rarely say no to a vacation time, or no to you leaving early because your dog has to get his hair cut, but let me know. I got to know. It's not because I care like where you're at. I mean, I do, but like, I trust you guys are getting your stuff done. It's the fact that if, the owner comes walking by, or the VP comes walking by and says, TJ, where's this person at? I don't want to look like an idiot. It's my job to know and tell them, hey, I'll have your back. I'll vouch for you. It's just, you got to let me know. It's funny how that plays in every single one of the situations. Is just I don't want somebody coming to me and asking me what's going on and me saying, I don't know,
Yeah. But if you have to say, I don't know, always say, but I'll find out.
Yeah. Yeah.
The answer always has to be followed with, but. I don't know, but give a solution.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So let's do this. So Brandon, why don't you start, from the brokerage side? I've got a ton of experience on that side too, but that's what your bread and butter is, on sourcing carriers and what you found and what you've done. I know that's something that's been big for you, with a lot of the type of freight you've moved, because of just the trust factor and having to have that type of care and the areas you've moved them out of. But talk a little bit about how what you see vetting wise and what the main points and what not to do as well.
Yeah. So it's a great question. I mean, I always say too, even on the brokerage side, it's just as important to have good relationships with your carriers, as your shippers. And it goes both ways. I mean, on the carrier side, the biggest important thing for me when I was building those relationships was that they did what they said they were going to do. Right. And, the communication is key. And that goes both ways, from the carrier to the broker to the customer. And I think it just kind of trickles downhill. So, the relationships that I built from the broker and carrier side is that, carriers knew that what I said I was going to do, I would do, whether it was detention, whether it was a layover. And then, when you build that trust, even between a carrier and a broker, then, it goes smooth. Then you find those carriers that'll do those high volume lanes repetitively, or you can call them and, the rate may be $1,000 higher, but he's going to help you out and only charge you $800, and he's going to get it done. So, as far as the vetting part, it's building that trust, building that relationship, just like as the brokerage side to a customer. Now I think obviously if we got to move a shipment for a customer, we may not vet a carrier as well and hope they do a good job to where it's a little bit different from a shipper. But, that's kind of always been my MO, is relationships, right? And, doing what I say I'm going to do and trust.
I have a question for you. So
Okay.
if you use a carrier that maybe you haven't used frequently or last minute, necessity, are there certain criteria you look at, or is it also just through relationships? I'm just curious.
So in my experience and, from the previous places that I've worked, there was a compliance team that would vet out any, the safety scores, any bad remarks, carrier 411. So I was in carrier sales and operations, for a while until I moved into the sales aspect of it. And while I was there, I built those relationships, but, I'm going to be honest. I don't want to try to pull something out of my ass. I mean, I do have carrier relationships, but I segmented over to the sales side and still had those relationships. But, I had a team that I trusted to make the right decision that would do a good job. So I didn't specifically look at one thing, like vet them. But for me, as long as they did what they said they were going to do, and on the brokerage side, that's huge because, just as it is from shipper to carrier, on non-binding contractual rates, you try to set up Schedule A's with asset carriers, but we all know when the market flips, it's going to go, they're not going to pick your load up, or, they're going to have all their trucks and trailers doing maintenance, or, and then you're sitting there with loads that need to move, the market's higher, and he promised you that. So, as long as, for me, if I built that relationship and they committed and I committed to them, we did it together. And that's hard to find. It really is. Even to this day, it's very hard to find because no one trusts anyone from the carrier broker side because of the bad raps, the bad reputations. And hopefully that's shifting and changing. And I hope it does. But that's been the kind of the downfall throughout the years, is that there's just no trust overall. And that's not anything specifically, but just overall.
Why is that?
Because, well, that's a good question. I think it's just because people don't do what they say they're going to do. They lie. Pressure from other elements in their life. They want to get this load moved. They want to get it picked up so they don't let their customer down. And then carriers get lied to. Then carriers on that side, they don't pick up a load, or they're late, or they don't communicate. It's a great question, Tony. I don't know how it turned into this over the years, but I think it's been this way for a long time.
I think there's an idea of mistrust between a guy making a phone call. If I'm the carrier and I'm using a broker, I just naturally think I'm getting hosed, right? Yeah, I think they all do.
Yep.
If I'm the shipper using a broker, I just naturally feel like you don't really have a truck, do you? You're just telling me what I want to hear, and you're still working on it. The guy broke down or he's out of hours. you don't have a truck yet. And so I think there's a skepticism because we've been burnt so many times, because I've had to answer that question. And my customer doesn't give two craps if your guy, his truck broke down. He wants to know why his product isn't on the dock.
Yeah.
They don't care. And then when you have no good answer for that, and we can't provide any evidence or proof, or the driver's not answering his calls, you can't ping him, whatever, that trust is broken. So everybody has been burnt, either on the carrier side from a broker or on the shipper side from a broker, or carrier direct for the shipper. I've had carriers that just fell. I've had carriers literally come into my plant where I worked and so discontent in my drivers, my fleet, telling them, oh, look at what I'm making over here. You guys suck. You know, doing that kind of, you're only there because I asked you to.
Yeah.
I let go of somebody because of that one time. Your value as a partner is a partner. If you're working against me, I can't use you. I mean, this is basic business stuff, and they don't get that. Some of these guys come in there as owner operators and they want to tell the world how great they are. You know, drivers all have egos. I'm a CDL guy. I had an ego. When I was driving, I was the best truck driver there was. And when somebody else comes in there and tells me they're making more money, I think they're lying. It's not right. You're not doing it right. You can't do it legal and still make that kind of money. Go work for a place where you can run legal and not worry about the scales being open. But when these guys are telling me what they're doing, and then I realize they're, you know, back in the old days running two logbooks or two different authorities, or they're running one under their own authority and one under a brokerage, so that they're putting two loads on one truck and coming in at night. You know, and once they show up at your place, you got to unload them, even if they're twice as heavy as they're supposed to be legal on the road. However they got there, I can't let them leave. Right. So there's all of these things that sow these seeds of mistrust, where that relationship is what really matters. Because when they start burning bridges like that, or you, as a manufacturer, a lot of times your inbound stuff is bought delivered, and you get those same carriers in there with 2 or 3 loads on the deck of their truck, seen it in the steel business. You know that there's no way in hell I would hire that guy on purpose, because I know he breaks the law and he's in there every night. And at 3 a.m. he's parked in front of my receiving door waiting in line to get unloaded, and I can't let him leave. And I can call his company he's brokered to, but he's using his own authority for one load, and they can't stop him because they don't know he's doing it either, because they can't, you know, he's an owner operator leased on with another carrier. Set of doubles, 3 coils, 2 on one, 1 on the other. You know, they can't stop him. As big as a coil is, as heavy as it is, it's really easy to hide.
I think that technology is kind of helping people hold themselves accountable. So maybe eventually that'll help mitigate some of the problems with lack of trust. I know some people are for it and some people are against it, but
I think it's given us more opportunity to build some trust. You know, when I can send a picture of a load to a broker and say, hey, I know this load's 4 stops 800 miles away, but look how easy it is. I'll show you a picture of the load. Mm-hmm. Then they get there and they look at it and they're like, oh, wow, that is easy. Yeah, I know it's going to take a whole truck, but you know, it's 8,000 pounds. Mm-hmm. You know, your hand unloading a 60-pound tube or something, you know, it just, I think the technology allows you to communicate in a way that can build some trust that otherwise you know, back 10, 15 years ago, you're just talking on the phone to somebody and they got to take your word for it. But yeah. So I think it's got opportunity to do that. I think there's e-BOLs that your paperwork can be online. The e-log has helped a lot of people level the playing field. I know there's probably ways to hack and cheat those things too, but you know, again, those are the people you don't want to deal with.
Yeah.
Yep. But that's how it is.
Yeah.
What you got going on there, TJ? What's going on?
I got my cord came out of my thing, and I was about to die, or not. I wasn't going to die. My camera was.
Stay safe.
But no, that's I've always thought that way, because there's always mistrust, and that's the biggest thing is carriers mistrusting brokers mistrusting carriers. So if you can find a way to establish that, you know, what really helped me starting on the dispatch and asset side going to brokerage was I'd go to brokerage, and like when I'd be talking to a carrier, I just tell them, you know, like, hey, you know, I get it. Yeah, I used to be, you know, on the dispatch side. I ran 15 trucks. You know, have that conversation, kind of get that out front. Like, it's so crazy how like their tone changes. And, you know, one of the biggest things is when there's trust issues, you got to just, what the issues are going to be up front. So when you're prospecting or doing sales or even trying to build an account, I always kind of revert back to like, if you've ever seen 8 Mile, the reason Eminem lost or won that rap battle is because he told the dude everything that he was going to say about him. He straight up just told him all the negatives that he was already going to say. So when he gave him the microphone, the guy had nothing to say. So, when I'm talking to shippers or carriers, even, I just straight up tell them, I know what they're really thinking. They, at the end of the day, their best people that they're using right now may not have all the stuff that I'm going to try and sell them on. I mean, I can go and sell them on my TMS and sell them on this and that, and whatever. And they hear that from everybody because everybody's starting to get all that now. But what they really want is, what makes their top 3, top 4 people they use anyways. And so if you can come out and talk to them about that and what you've done to either counteract that or what you've dealt with that or how you do it, you're a lot more successful. Obviously touch on some of the stuff you can bring to the table, but it's got to be those things that are the pain points that, they deal with. That's where research comes in too. And so when you're prospecting, you can limit, get on and make 100 calls a day, or you can just know that, hey, what do I have here? I got excess trailers, right? I know how to drop trailers. I've brokered a lot of drop trailer accounts, or I have a lot of trucks that drop trailers on the asset or brokerage side. I'm going to find some shippers that I know do that. And I know that I'm going to research the commodity, the area, see what capacity looks like, see if that may be a place they're struggling in. And you've already got yourself a nice little in that way too. So knowing their negatives, same thing when you're vetting a carrier. If you're talking to, it's not just vetting a carrier. Here's the biggest thing, and I'm going to talk louder because I want everybody to hear this. It's not just about setting them up or not. Like, it's not just about your compliance department, whether or not you're going to set them up or not. It's about vetting a carrier to run a lane for you. It's about trusting that carrier, knowing that, hey, they're going to take care of my freight. So, a lot of the stuff that you want to talk to them about is how they handle those types of situations. Understand what is it that's been a pain in your ass before and where you got burned before, and bring those up and talk to them about them and see what they say. But it's also on you to provide the information too. So, if I don't want somebody to mess up on something, like if I got something super important just in life in general, I'm probably going to lay it out for them pretty good to make sure they don't mess it up. And it should be the same exact thing here where, if you've got a load, you've got you make sure they have everything that you could possibly need in order to avoid that, and then put the ball in their court. They mess up, that's on them, not you.
Here's where people mess up as well, or where I've seen, let me rephrase that. In my experience here is what I think that things could have gone a little bit better, maybe on vetting a carrier, building that relationship on the brokerage side, is that a lot of time you would see carrier sales and they would say, hey, we've got all this lane opportunity that we can build volume with. Hey, go reach out. Let's talk to them about Schedule A's. And then we would find out that they weren't talking to the right person at the carrier level. They would be talking to a dispatcher or a driver or one person owner op. But if you're going to actually build that relationship, talk to the person over all, like TJ's over all the assets. So if I've got a great opportunity, I'm going to build a relationship with TJ, find out about what his pain points are, what he needs. Where's his backhauls? What does he need to do to get his truck from one place to the other? And I think that's where a lot of brokers may fall short, is that they don't build the carrier relationship at the right level.
And that's key. That's key because, listen to this. So my top dispatcher, the guy's genius. I mean, the guy's got a mind. He reminds me of a young me. God bless him.
Oh, here we go. Wow.
But just the ability to sit down and just slang freight, just like piece things together and be on time. Know where, anybody like, hey, where's V1563 is a trailer. It's still sitting down in South Carolina. Why does he know that? Nobody knows. It just does. What I'm saying though is that he came from Arby's. Okay, he was a manager at Arby's. I didn't know this when I came in. He was just already working here. So. But we were having a meeting, and he's always had my back on how I've laid things out, because when you come into and you revamp a whole asset side that has guys that have been doing it 30 years, it's not scary, but you're kind of questioning whether or not they're going to buy in. He's always had my back. He's always had my back. And, he straight up said, he was like, this is why TJ's bringing this up. He said, when I was at Arby's in the management level, he said, we used to talk about how the director of operations was looking 1 to 2 years out. The operations manager was looking 6 months out. The team lead or whatever is looking, 6 weeks out, your other guy's looking, and then all the way down to day to day. And he structured it out that way. And I thought, that's a great way to put it, because if you're wanting to start up with somebody or have them make a decision to work with you, you probably shouldn't be talking to the guy that just cares about the day to day.
Yep.
Right. Because if you just, and so I tell my dispatchers, because I know there's some that are just not motivated. They do a great job, but they're not motivated to like bring a new business that'll benefit them.
Yeah.
So, I always tell them, just get them to me. Just get them to me. Right. I can decide whether or not it's going to be a good fit for us. Because there's things in my head that I'm thinking, down the road that they may fit into that you may not know or care. And I'm not going to put it in your court. I'm not going to put it in your court to decide whether or not it's not your decision, whether or not we should work with them or put that on you in the first place. Just get it to me and then be done with it. And then we'll go from there. But that's how it's vice versa. Same thing. If you're prospecting a customer too. I mean, you want to talk to somebody is looking long-term, somebody who actually is coming up with the solutions, not just somebody that's day to day. They don't give two shits,
I can't say this loud enough. If you are trying to build a relationship with the carrier, just like in a customer, make sure it is at the right level. If you give a Schedule A to a dispatcher, they're not going to pick up your load.
Explain that.
The market
Explain
flips.
that. Explain what a Schedule A is.
Yeah. So, this is how it's. I think we've had deep discussions about this in the past on the phone. So, a Schedule A for me, if I'm in the carrier sales side and I find a carrier, then we have some lanes that they want that they agree to. A Schedule A is just a document, non-binding. It's just a document saying that, hey, I'm going to commit this much volume to you as a carrier at this rate for this amount of time. That's it. It doesn't have to be in depth. Simple. Carrier agrees. Sign it. Thank you. Again, it's non-binding, but it's also too. It's saying that I'm going to guarantee you this volume, and I can tell you that on a broker. Well, I take that back. This year was different. If I've got a bunch of lanes, and I find a Schedule A carrier, you got to commit to the carrier too, that whenever the market drops and you could be making an extra 200 or 300, you're going to give it to them. And then when it flips back the other way. And I think we had a pretty deep discussion back when COVID first hit about this. So, again, build it at the right level, talk about a Schedule A. And if you build that relationship and you both agree to that Schedule A, then, you're going to have better results in my opinion.
Yeah. And I, it's funny because I was putting together, I started to explain to one of my new guys, and I had been on they had me on What the Truck to talk about the kind of the brokerage arm or the capacity pod that I put together within our asset division, even though we already have a brokerage site, because it's a little weird. But I remember explaining that because Michael Vincent asked me, he said, now there's probably a lot of ins and outs that go into this. That's why you did this. He said, how important is that? And what kind of discussions do you have with these guys to make sure they understand, all that stuff? And it's probably pretty important, right? I mean, it's, and that's what I said was, hey, we're providing the correct information, but we're providing it to the correct people. Like I'm getting on the guy that runs the whole asset side, or the guy that owns I'm getting in with them. That way they can lay out their structure however they want. I'm not there to tell their dispatchers how to structure it or their drivers. They can do it how they want, but they got to have all that information.
Let me ask you this, TJ. Let me ask you this. Sorry to cut you off, but if brokerage, right? Do you have any Schedule A's with brokers on lanes? And if so, do you treat that the same as a Fortune 500 customer if you've made that commitment, or do you just say, well, yeah, I'm going to haul these, but I could probably dump them if I had to?
It depends on the account. So if I'm saying
there it is.
Well, because there's spot bid accounts.
Yeah.
I mean, there is. So if I'm spot bidding accounts, right? It's not a Schedule A, but it's like hey, this is a drop trailer shipper, right? And so we're finding carriers that'll drop trailers, usually local. Your carrier sourcing has to be way better when you're doing it within your asset division.
No, I'm talking about
times in which. But just listen. Hang on. I know your question. What I'm saying is that so in that case, I'll find local guys that know what they're doing and whatever. But there also are shippers where I can use it to my advantage, where I could say, listen, hey, right now the reality is recruiting owner operators is tough as hell right now. Just like finding trailers is tough as hell right now because everybody's making money, right? The good ones are working, and we've got high safety standards, and people aren't leaving like they, jump and ship like they usually do. So how do I bring more capacity to these lanes that I already committed to, right? To these lanes that I already have a Schedule A with you on, right? So I can bring in other carriers, right? So they're not just committing to my Schedule A, they're committing to my customer Schedule A, right? So I could say, hey, yeah, I know you awarded these 6 lanes, 6 a week or whatever. I've got 4 drivers, nothing I can do. That's the weirdest part about being on asset side compared to brokerage is like you have a set number of trucks. That's it. So it makes sense. It seems real obvious, but like when you get in there, it's just so weird. But I can say, yeah, I could fill those gaps and do that. But I got, so on my end, then I got to have these drivers and dispatchers basically understanding that they're going to run basically within my operation, under our operational rules. Now, what they do in their office is fine, whatever. I don't care as long as they're following what my operation is, so it's seamless. Because there's times that they may have to pull one of our trailers over, from the middle of the warehouse, from this to that, like that. And we want to be able to have that discussion and say, hey, listen, I pay my guy $50 to move a trailer for me across, down the road or whatever. So that's what we'll pay your guy. Like they got to know everything that there is. Because if there's more and more, and they got to know, the operational side of things, because when you get drivers in the lanes, right, you get your own assets in the lanes, they're going to get in a routine. They're going to start to know things. And if there's another driver for a different carrier that's in that mix and he's effing shit up, it's not a good mix, right? So you got to be careful. You got to do things right, but it really depends on the account, whether or not you want to Schedule A carrier with. It depends on what my commitment is. If it's a spot bid account in which I know that I got 4 drivers that are solid on it because they live close. That's kind of how my carriers are got to be. They got to just be close, and somebody I could say, hey, I got one for Thursday. Can you drop a trailer?
Now, Tony, I got a question for you real quick, Tony.
Hang on. I'm going to help TJ out for real quick. Hey, if you ever need any capacity, I get emails all the time with people. They've got 16, 18, 70,000. I've seen 80,000 assets that they're contracted with. You just let me know. I get those emails all the time. There's capacity everywhere.
That they're contracted with?
Oh, yeah.
Hey, Tony, I got a question. So obviously from the shipper side, and I know you've done this throughout the years, and just give me kind of your view, but there's so many customers out there that have, asset carrier and brokers, and they will let an asset carrier leave a load on the dock, not pick things up, cancel loads. And then year after year, they bring them back. So I know a lot of people have probably wondered this, or maybe they haven't, or maybe people know. So I'm just asking to generalize it, but what is the deal with shippers letting asset carriers, and this obviously not TJ Circle, I'm just saying in general, burn their ass to no end, but still hate on brokers so bad when they probably called a broker that kind of saved them. They paid more, but they got the freight off the dock. But they're going to bring back asset carrier A that burned them and act like, hey, it's a new year, new you, new me. Let's do it.
So hang on real quick before you answer, because I want you to touch on this too. I'm going to add to it.
All right.
I'm going to say from my experience, and then I want you to tell you what, your piece on too, because I want to hear from you. I'll tell you this right now. People like Tony, people they don't give a shit. They want it picked up. They want service. It's the people way up top, right? The procurement, the heads of procurement, the VPs that are promising their customers the 80-20, right? 80% assets, 20%, or, this is all assets. Or I know companies that like literally are able to bring business in only because they say they're all assets. So and they don't have any connection with operations. They don't get any feedback on the fact that, well, yeah, they're an asset carrier, but they suck. And it frustrates the people down towards the bottom. I wanted to get that out there. Tony, your thoughts on just adding to what your thought is.
I don't have an answer now. I already got it.
That was it?
No, that happens all the time. Oh. You know how hard it is to onboard a carrier? That's part of the problem, is onboarding a carrier as a vendor so that we can pay them. It takes sometimes weeks or months. And that process is difficult for 10 million different reasons, because especially in a publicly traded company, there are requirements and there are things that you have to do. There are forms that have to be filed. There's reporting that has to be done, tax stuff. There's all this lawyer crap that you have to know. So onboarding a carrier, you can't just say, hey, I'm Bill. I got a truck. I can haul your freight for you. How do I get in? Man, I don't have time. I seriously do not have time to onboard a carrier.
Haul produce when they need to get some fruit off the dock. You'll see the fastest setup in your life.
This is key here. Right. This is key here. So at the end of the day, understanding the disconnect between the people that are higher up and the operations, the people that are doing the day-to-day, is you got to understand that happens. So Michael Neem, who is a crazy hippie, lives out in Seattle, always talks about, great sales guy, always talks about that. Where when he's looking at the finance side and whatever, he'll call into like the billing department, right? He'll call into those people and pick their brains on what's going wrong, like what could be done better. And those are the people that'll tell you that because they know their day to day. So I always suggest doing this too, is just, and Tony, I've talked to you about this too, but like getting in with those types of people and not selling them or asking them to set you up, but understanding what's frustrating them, what they're dealing with, those types of problems. That way, now when you go to the decision maker, and in some cases it is Tony there, but what I'm saying, if you go to the decision maker, then you could say, hey, I've talked with, I've talked with people down, in operations at the dock. I've talked with, I've worked with the other accounts. This is what they're dealing with. Mm-hmm. This is the frustrating part there. I think I could bring a solution. Is that something that you were aware of? Yeah. Put them in a little bit of a spot, kind of like, but not like rudely, but just like, is that something you were aware of? Because I know it's a big issue there. It's something we can bring to the table. And I've always said this, I don't care what percentage or how it works. If it's the 80-20, if it's a customer that is 80% assets, 20% brokers, if it's 80-20, why can't you set up a broker? I mean, I get, they want to say that's why. Well, the 20, no matter what the percentage is, the whoever's in that percentage, whoever you're using,
there's a broker failing.
Right. They still have to be good. It doesn't mean that it's not work for. So it's like, if I've got 20% of anything, I want it to be the best 20% because I can only use 20% of it. Right. So, that's where you push that discussion of, hey, how good is that 20%? If you're a broker, you say, have you looked, I'm sure there's people that are set up in there that aren't even hauling freight for you, but because their numbers in there, it puts it at 20%.
Guaranteed.
Can you revamp that 20%? You don't need to make it go to 21%. Keep it at 20. Just use me as a Trojan horse. Get rid of 3 of them. We go down to 18. Let's go to 15%. Go to 15%, brokers. Hell, I'll be one of them.
And I'll save you 20% on your freight bill.
They're gonna go. Oh shit, that makes sense.
Hey, let me answer some more of that. That wasn't just that one. I've been in roles where I was the decision maker on whether or not we onboarded a carrier, and I've went through all the process of that. And I've been in roles where it's a bureaucracy that's 100 miles long to get somebody onboarded, and you don't have any control over it. Mm-hmm. I've been a shipper in both roles, and let me tell you, it doesn't change a whole lot. I'm going to use who I want to use. Period. Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, I'm going to make that choice. And it's going to be based on service and price level.
Hey, Tony.
Yeah.
How do you like when somebody at the top tells you who to use? How's that go?
I've been in that spot before too. I'm telling you.
What if they recommend a certain broker and because they say they're great?
I would question their experience.
Awkward.
I would question their experience.
True. Mm-hmm.
I tell you that I've been at places where somebody high enough up is a broker, was hired away or whatever, and I've seen it. Hey, we're going to use for everything. You. I'm not, because it's my ass on the line. If this stuff fails, which X has a acceptable fail rate, I'm not willing to have that. My boss does not tolerate acceptable fail rate.
Well, good for you, Tony. And again, a lot of people won't stand up for themselves on that. And obviously, there's chain of command and there's things that you have to do.
I didn't used to.
Well, again, though, but I think you learn is in leadership or anyone that grows of figuring out how to position that the correct way, other than I'm not doing that, but I think the fact that if you state that it's not going to work and that, your job could be in jeopardy and you get that out there that you don't agree with it, you're still going to do it. Because there's a lot of things that in life and in work and marriage and everything, like I'm going to do it. Doesn't mean I agree with it. I think that that's the key to success and growing. So,
sometimes you just have to every time, but sometimes you have to follow direction and go against the flow and do what you don't want to do because somebody higher up somewhere, whether it's your paying customer or your boss or whoever is that final decision maker that controls what it is that you're going to do, whether it's within your organization or outside of your organization, you're going to do stuff you don't want to do. And
I've told my boss, I've told leadership that I've been under, and I've said, hey, I don't agree with this. I think it's a very bad decision and I'm going to voice my opinion, but I'm going to go out there and I'm going to do what I'm supposed to do because that's my role. But I want you to know that I don't agree with it and that I don't think it's right.
Here's why.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I found if you're going to do that with your leadership, that if I'm going to do that, I'm sure as hell going to have an alternate plan.
That's a good point,
already
DJ. Good
laid
point.
out. Like, I'm not just going to complain about it. I'm going to say, but here's what I'm thinking. Here's what I got.
But follow it with a but, and here's the solution. You give that sometimes. I'm telling you, especially in logistics, the
People
guy
just
making the
bitch.
decision high enough up just doesn't know what he's doing in the operation side. And I'm telling you, you can tell them no, but, and then present them a solution. They don't know, and it's something you do every day, and they just don't even know. They have no idea what you're doing out there.
So you
I
got
used
to
to
lay it
tell
out.
my
It can't
team, don't
be like
don't come to me with a problem without a solution.
Yep, but have it
Don't
laid out
complain.
so you can explain it too. Be like, I understand, okay, but here's what you got to understand. On a day-to-day basis, this is what we go through. So if we do it this way, you could lay it out that way so they get it too. Hey, Aaron asked Tony, she asked you, what do you mean by fail rate?
Okay, so in brokerage, there is, I don't know, everybody has a percent. Some say they do, some say they don't, but everybody has a percent. Your business is based on volume. I'm here to educate you brokers on how brokerage works from my point of view. You get X number of loads per day, per hour, per week, per month, whatever your quota states, and you have to produce on X number. That means somewhere in there, you can take a load, you can agree to it, your carrier falls through, your agreement, you couldn't find a truck under it or whatever the failure excuse or reason is that you can't cover that load. And some places, every place at to some degree has got a number that is acceptable.
Mm-hmm.
I don't. My boss has a 0 fail rate. Every load is a paying customer with an invoiceable account. I have to deliver 100%. And I'm telling you, even the 99.5 people are going to let me down. And then I'm going to be an idiot to my boss. My whole job, your whole job, everybody's job, whether it's your internal boss or your external boss, your job is to make your boss look good, period.
So when you look at that in logistics, things are going to go wrong. They're going to happen. So sometimes it's not like when you look at a scorecard for a customer, it's not always based like on if you just failed, like the load failed. A lot of times it's just if you failed on communication too. So
how did you recover your failure?
Right. So like, it's not like, hey, I was tendered this load to pick up Monday, deliver Friday, on our Monday, deliver Tuesday. Sorry. So, but on Friday, I found out this, and I relayed this to you, and then I relayed this to you over the weekend, which means now we got to pick up Tuesday and go straight through. So we were able to come up with a solution. I communicated it to you. You were able to communicate that to your customer. It was changed in your portal. Now that doesn't affect my scorecard. Did I pick up when I was supposed to? No. But did I communicate well ahead of time in which you were able to then coordinate that with your customer and have it updated in the portal? Because there's going to be some requirements there. But like, yes. So maybe not affect your scorecard. So I didn't fail. I may have failed on the low, but I didn't fail on the communication of it.
Right.
That
acceptable fail rate I'm talking about is trucks break, drivers get sick. I mean, that kind of stuff happens. It's going to happen. But I've dealt with brokers where, oh, well, sorry, we couldn't haul your load.
So that's unacceptable. First of all, when a broker says that there's no trucks, there are trucks. They just don't want to lose the money. But secondly, too, like if there's going to be times where, yeah, you have a fall off, or there really is, and don't be afraid to call your customer and to be like, hey, dude, I had a fall off. I've got it recovered. They're going to be there first thing tomorrow morning if that's okay. If you've got a team in there and it needs a team, recover with the team, say it's going to deliver straight through. So you're giving them the sense of, hey, it's still going to get picked up. You missed it. You have a solution for them. And I promise you, be upfront, come with a solution with your problem, even on the customer side, and then do it. Don't just tell them that you're going to have a truck there in the morning and bullshit them, because you really don't, and you still don't want to lose money. And the next morning the phones aren't ringing or you're not getting it covered. Like, just do what you say you're going to do.
If you're going to play that game and tell me there's a truck going to be in there in the morning, if you don't have one, I don't care. I don't want to know, as long as the truck shows up.
Exactly.
Yeah, let them know you got it handled. Like, you always gotta say, like, you come to them with an issue. You got to let them know the issue, but let them know how to fix it.
And don't always say my truck broke down. Like, as a broker, don't say my truck broke down. Just say, dude, I had a fall off. All right. It's 4:30. I'm doing my best. I've got it recovered. I have an option to be there first thing tomorrow morning. And you're going to get a lot further. But this bullshit, and I'm not a shipper, so I've never seen it, but I've heard it, learning. especially from what Tony says, for a broker to say, hey, I'm not picking up the load or I'm not doing it, as a shipper, like I would fire them, you know, and for them to say that, hey, there are no trucks, there's always trucks. There's always trucks. You pay someone enough, they'll deadhead. There's trucks.
Let me tell you another secret everybody likes to do. I don't care about your repair bill. I don't care about the pictures of the wire harness wrapped around the drive shaft. I don't care. Figure it out. You took the load. Those are your problems. I don't care what your problems are. I don't need
broker
proof
send
that
you
you're not
pictures
lying.
of like the driver, like pictures.
That's Tony.
I remember putting a post out like over the summer that I talked about, like, you want to piss me off. Like when I was overseeing the account manager, like and the carrier said, like, there'd be a load all day and it's not covered yet, you know, and I'd say, why isn't this covered? Well, there's no trucks down there. You want to piss me off? Tell me there's no trucks down there.
Yeah, and how many calls did they have?
You know why?
How many calls did they have?
There's no trucks down there on DAT, you DAT reliant rat. Go pick up the phone, figure it out. Listen, when you're sending load, you're going to cover the load. Figure it out. Listen, and I'm sorry, but they always do this. Like, oh, I want to push the. We're not pushing freaking loads. Find it. If you got to figure it out, and you got to lose $1,000. If you're good enough to make $1,000 rip, you're good enough to take $1,000 loss. Think about it long term. You know what I mean? You didn't even land this account. You're lucky I'm letting you work it. Don't push the load and then lie to the freaking shipper and then tell me there's no freaking trucks down there. That's bullshit. That means you don't want to take a loss because you care about your commission check more than you do the customer.
If you've got time to send me a repair bill and pictures of all of the tangled up wire harnesses or the 73 flat tires or the traffic or the weather, then you've got time to have had an alternate solution. And end of the story. I know shit happens. Everybody knows shit happens. Pardon my French. It happens. It's an expression. Everybody has shit that happens. Trucks break. Drivers get sick. I don't care. My customer doesn't care what your excuse is. I can send those pictures to my customer and he's going to say, I don't care. Why is my stuff not here when you say it's going to be here?
Great opportunity too.
Now, my relationship with my customer, which means I won't need you again because they're not going to buy from us.
Always an angle, Tony. Always an angle. So you tell me that. I've got trucks, right? I've got assets. And you're like, I'm not going to set you up. You're no brokering, just assets. And I say, listen, okay. All right. Well, guy breaks down, guys broke down. Man, hey, I can fix it for you right now. I can handle it. I got a bunch of partner carriers that I got great.
Are you going to charge them more? Are you going to keep your same rate?
Well, first I'm going to finish my story.
You're going to pay
so I tell them, hey, listen, great opportunity here. Honestly, I wish I could just, get a hold of partner carriers I got in the area, get in there, get you another truck. Unfortunately, the closest owner operator I got is this and that. It really solve some problems there. You know what I mean? Let me lay that out for them because trucks break down, right? That's the whole part of it. So, but no, I'm not going to charge them more. I mean, honestly, I'd probably be able to charge them less because I'd tell them this. I'd say, hey, listen, I could deadhead a guy, but I'm going to have to pay him as an owner op. He's going to go 300 miles to come get this, or I could find a guy that's sitting down the road at Arby's waiting for a call from his dispatcher.
I like
None of those are my problem.
When you have a bad experience, like somebody really drops the ball, do you just kind of keep that internal, or will you go and rate it somewhere?
I have a list.
I had a feeling.
Everybody
I don't know.
has a list.
I don't know what this show's rated or who's listening or whatever, but I'm going to say it because I think it's awesome. But
here we go.
I had a guy come in. He was account manager, and he really cared about his account. Okay, so maybe that'll justify this. But he had a list that he kept that was called carriers that boned me, and it was. I tell you that they always laugh. Really, I don't know how appropriate that is. Sorry about that. But either way, that's what it was called. So get over it. But he had a list of that. Like he kept it internal. I don't see a value in going out and putting anything out there because things could be, misconstrued and stuff. It could happen to you. I don't know. I don't see a value in that unless it's something that's like so egregious that you feel it works. But no, I mean, I think it's more internal. I mean, you got to keep those internal lists. A carrier that boned me list is probably something good to have. Yeah.
On the brokerage side, most people I would assume would probably have that, piece built into their TMS. And, if I'm in carrier sales, I'm building my list, I'm building my carrier base, but you should be rating your carrier. Usually there's a note section, of what went well or what went bad so that you can pull that data.
Yeah. Before you can deliver out a load in ours, there's star rankings,
Yeah. Yeah. Most carrier sales just click through it to move on, to be honest.
Probably. You have to ask for 5 stars like an Uber driver.
Ooh. Yeah, I was just going to ask
hello, 5 stars.
How accurate people are. Like, do they actually take the time to do that? I would think that would be pretty important.
I have a tender management system. When I send out a load, this was at a previous job. I don't have this now because I don't use commercial carriers, but when I used to click exceptions. So when I tendered a bid for a load out to this through this TMS system, I can tell you to this day the number the carriers that I would click on to never see a load from me, and they would just keep cheapening their bids and keep cheap. Burn me once, I get it, right? Burn me twice, shame on me. Fool me once. Same idea, but I carried that list in my brain for years and years and years. And I can still list them off, and I can tell you, one of them was a franchisee, and it was a husband and wife, and they split, and they fought over my loads, and they would both fail, and I'll never use them again. To this day, I will never use that company again. I'm not going to name them for fear of all the good ones that are out there, but I guarantee you, if they come knocking on my door, I don't care if the dude owns the joint and is the guy who started it, he'll never get a load from me. If
you're not the shipper, so you're not as a carrier. So you're not the only shipper that does that, I'm sure. So
no.
how important? How much of a difference would it make if old Tej over here, was kind of on a string of things that went wrong and things that failed for you, and picked up the phone and called you direct to talk to you about it,
or you just went and saw him in person too, right?
How big of a deal is it?
Yeah. How big of a difference does that make if I were to do that? If I've got two or three failures there this month, and it's honestly it's been a thing, but I give you a call personally. I want to talk to you about what solutions I've come up with and that I recognize it and that I'm looking to fix it.
Trying to win you back over, Tom.
I may listen to that, but I'm going to take into consideration how those 3 failures went. Was I communicated through start to finish? Was it resolved in a way that didn't make me lose my customer? Did it get communicated quickly? Don't tell me 3 days later that my load never delivered because the guy broke down 2 days away. Now my customer's 5 days late, and I didn't even know about it. How did that happen? What was the
process? I told you I fired everybody.
Well,
starting fresh.
So did I.
You know what it takes, Tony? It takes get you out for a wet, dry burrito down at the local Mexican restaurant.
Hey, wet burritos without enchilada sauce is the only way to eat them.
Guys, can we talk about this? He gets a wet burrito with no enchilada sauce, which makes it a dry burrito.
That's right.
What do you put sour cream on it?
Hell yeah, I put sour cream on it. I usually cover it in salsa, but sour cream is great.
It's a moist burrito.
Well, hey, Tony, mix them. Get you a burrito, get you a little sour cream, and then sprinkle it with salsa. Melt some cheese.
Every time. There's always melted cheese on top of a wet burrito.
Well, I would just call them a burrito. I don't know if it's wet or dry.
Well, I don't think it's wet or dry. It's either a wet burrito or a burrito.
I don't want chips. I don't want chips. I want nachos with no toppings.
Oh my gosh. This guy's like,
all right,
probably like cilantro.
Rhonda, how do you vet your personal training clients?
Vet my personal training clients. Well, I vet my personal trainers, obviously. Clients more. It's more of getting to know them. Google searching, like a Google search. See, stalk them on Facebook and.
You run their credit.
Oh yeah, run it. Credit check. Well, we set it up.
Cash only, aren't you?
Hey.
You got to pay up front. Pay up front before you get any service.
But in general, I guess my point was a lot of what we're talking about here goes in almost all industries, correct?
Yeah.
Relationships, trust, right?
Well, I would hope people that are looking for my services are going to vet me too. Like, what's my experience?
Mm-hmm.
What have I?
That's a great response. Absolutely.
That's the biggest. So the feedback you get, whether it's a restaurant review or whatever it is. So when I say that, there's the stars that you click when you deliver a load out for a carrier. The people that are just clicking it to get through it probably didn't have a bad experience anyways. If you got screwed by a carrier, you're probably you can't wait to deliver that load out because you're trying to go negative on the stars.
I'm trying to get on Carrier 411 if it's that bad. If they're unethical or they're railing stuff, or my load's supposed to deliver 2 days ago and it's still sitting somewhere along a railroad track. Yeah, I'm getting on Carrier 411.
They're going 1 star. So I always figure anything 3 stars and above is probably good, because usually the 3-star people that rank at 3 stars are just they're overthinkers. They get butt hurt over nothing and probably have some weird probably didn't do what they were supposed to do. But anything 2 stars and below, obviously then they probably really got screwed over. So you got to think of it that way.
As a shipper, I was doing 20 loads a day, but it was really more like 40. inbound, outbound, and in between. Not everything was full truckload. So I used to always, while I had them on the phone, look up FMCSA or DOT lookup. Give me your DOT number. Give me your MC number. I'd pull it up. I would look at your violations. If you told me you had 5 trucks and the thing said you had 1, I would say, what are their names? Give me their name. If you lied to me on the initial call, I'm done with you. Done.
Oh, hey, you're a broker carrier, and it shows you have one asset. Yeah, honestly, we do have one asset. We use that as a tool to say that we're
a showroom
company.
It's actually parked out front of our building.
No, that's when they suddenly disclose their contract with their 18,000 partner carriers.
Yeah, 18,000 assets, but they're all partner carriers.
Yeah.
You got to love that. But no, I think that they're, when you look at that, I mean, obviously a lot of people, when they want to talk about vetting carriers and brokers, they look at, there's contracts and there's this and that. But I think the biggest thing is what we've talked about, it's communication. But, I think it goes the same. I mean, I think it's more as you develop in the industry, but vetting, when I talk about vetting your shippers, as a carrier or broker,
Amen.
Because it's just like anything, right? I mean, like the reason why we try to push to get a carrier on a load who shouldn't be on a load, who shouldn't set up, is because of the short game, right? The instant gratification. That's why I put no guts, no glory. If you don't have guts to say no and take a loss, or to part ways with somebody, and not it's going to hit you in the short term. So, I mean, if you're in this for the long term and you're actually wanting to have a career in it, you need to think that way. And if what I'm doing for you is not reciprocated, and I'm putting a lot of time and work in it, and it's just not, obviously you don't care in return. I'm asking you, I'm doing everything you want me to do. But you're killing us operationally and money wise because you're not reciprocating that. We're probably not gonna do business together because there's a lot of freight out there, and there's a lot of companies that I could definitely put more time into and work with. I mean, I've had to send those emails where it's like, hey, I'm sorry about that. I mean, I understand what you're asking me, but like, that's not something we're going to do. I mean, I'd really rather put my time in with somebody who understands and is going to go with this. I've laid everything out for you. I don't understand what else you'd need. And I've asked multiple times, and it's just not working. So I hope this isn't how you treat every carrier, but like for us, it's just not going to work. I'm gonna continue to build relationships with those that value that. So, I mean, it's just part of it.
Yeah, I'm going to build on that too. I got 2 points here real quick. So if you're going to take a loss, right? if you're going to take a loss, and just know that, if you're going to call me at 4 or 5:30, I'm going to make up for that loss. If you're going to call me and take away time from my family, I'm going to get you a truck, but I'm going to make up for that loss. But just know that it goes both ways.
Mm-hmm.
And then I just started laughing, and I forgot my second point. Oh yes, vetting shippers. So too, like Tony or TJ said, it takes time and experience, but you really have to be intentional with who you want to work with. Does it make sense? Is it in your scope? Can you do it? Because if I'm a broker, and again, you're a product of your environment, but if you're young coming up and, oh yeah, we do it all, we can do everything. Well, if I'm a shipper, do I want someone that can do everything, or do I want someone that can do one thing or two things and do it very fucking well? Bleep that out on the editing. But what I'm getting at is, like, don't be afraid to have a conversation with a potential shipper, qualify them, get them on there, talk about their pain points, and don't be afraid to say, hey, I understand your pain points, but I just don't know if I could do what you need me to do to help you. And that's okay. You can still build a relationship with
well enough, and if you have the insight and the wisdom and experience and the foresight, or the whatever you want to call it, to vet a shipper and find out if you're a fit, when the name of your entire business model is built on volume, then you are a wise young man. And you're probably not a wise young man. You're probably an experienced veteran at that point. Good job, Brandon.
Well, I appreciate that.
Yeah, I brought it up.
Hey, but just remember, Tony, that yeah, brokerage is volume, but there's times where you don't have volume. And if you don't have volume, you better have margin.
That's right.
Yeah, that's true. And I think it's kind of funny how that works, because you got to know the situation too, like know what's going on. So when everything hits the fan here and fall in the, late summer, and the capacities continues to go down, and,
we're already seeing rates go down in some areas.
They're setting brokers up right and left for a reason, and they're just gonna use and abuse them and get rid of them. You know, are you one of those? Is there a reason? Is there something that they're doing that isn't that you know, that's not conducive to you, that they're just using you for? So you got to be aware of that.
So I was watching something on FreightWaves, and they were saying that rates are starting to really drop and go down in some areas. And again, I don't know if that's the case. I go by kind of what I can catch here and there, not being in the day to day and not being in this part of the industry anymore. But I know 2020 and now it's, you know, January. But from what they're saying on some of the articles and things of that nature, that the rates are going down. So be anxious to see how strong some of these relationships that have been built during 2020 really are in 2021.
So I was chasing down I was just looking this up, a guy to help kind of put our Conestogas to work, a couple lanes that I thought would fit. I knew he had Conestoga work. I finally got through to him. And then of course, anybody that's prospecting and sales, you get the email that you're just super pumped about, right? It says, TJ, I looked at your overview you sent me, and I've decided to give you a shot at quoting a few of my lanes. I'll need to get you set up in the Emerge TMS system I'll use to obtain quotes. What email address would you like these to come to? Right. So I'm all pumped, you know, we kind of go through, and I said, he told me to quote some or whatever. I said,
who was emailing you?
Who
sent you that email?
The guy, the head of procurement. Said he wants something up. So I said, Gabriel, should I say name?
Oh, nailed it.
I said, hey, Leo, would you be willing to hop on a call with me today and talk a little bit more about the process, works and opportunities available? Here's the response. Negative, sir. Quote a few of my lanes so I could see where you're at, so I can determine if you're a good fit or not. Then we could talk about spending more time on the phone.
See ya.
Will do. I didn't know if price was the only determining factor. I said, I'm looking to partner with a customer that I can get more info on shipping, receiving processes, their network, and their volume to see if we would be a good fit. I don't see quoting some shipments and Emerge as a qualifier to find a good carrier, so I'll pass your info along to our brokerage, and I'm sure they can help you out with some quotes. Thank you for your time. But, you know, right off the bat, like, that's like, I've literally told you, like, they're kind of stows. These expensive equipment. I want to know your shipping processes and things. Let's see where we fit. And it was just go and Emerge and quote, and we'll see if you're a good fit. It's all rates, which means you don't care, which means you're going to beat us up, right? Which means you're not going to pay your accessorials when you need to. It's not, you know.
Well, that's your first screener.
They're going to beat you down.
I've been there where that's a first screener. Give me a rate on something that I'm familiar with, at a lane that I'm really comfortable with. And if you come in like so far out of the market that I know that you're going to screw me on every other lane, maybe I'm just screening you. I get 100 of those.
But at the same time, that's so
TJ,
hard.
You could have came in low and then been like, hey, just so you know, like, I wanted to get that relationship going, foot in the door. But, you know,
I would just tell him, if I'm you, TJ, and I'm in sales, I would tell him the market rate for those lanes and tell you I can be in the market. That's what I would tell him.
No, I mean, when I asked somebody to get on the phone, literally just to talk about their processes and the network, see where we would fit, and he says negative, go quote some of my lanes and Emerge, and then we'll talk about spending more time on the phone.
That's a good point.
Right off the bat. I'm sorry, but listen, and that's so hard for somebody that's just starting, right? That's got a sales quota that has to land a customer. At that point, you're taking whatever, man. You're getting beat up, and he knows it, and that's why he's got the God complex, because he's like, you know, I get this all the time. Like, a lot of people couldn't do that. But in my standpoint, I'm thinking, I go out, if I really dug in and wanted to go out and land another one, I could. I don't have time to deal with this. Like, I don't want to deal with it, because it's going to be a bigger pain down the road. If this is how you get on the phone with me now, why would you get on the phone with me later down the road when things aren't going right?
Let me tell you a secret. I'm really hard to get into. Once you get in, though, you're in.
Just takes a wet, dry burrito.
I was coming in hot with something, but I didn't have.
Tony, you're the type I'd take out for a shrimp dinner, never call again.
But, you know, too, as a leader, if you have a young salesperson, you know, they have to hit quotas. But if they're logging that correctly and they have a roadblock, and it's that same scenario, don't consider that as a negative on your young sales guy. You know, coach them and tell them, hey, when you get that kind of response, yeah, it's good to follow up, and it's good to be persistent. But if you get some type of response like that, it's probably not going to be good business for you, even in this stage in your career or as you grow. And as a leader, it's good to tell your younger people that too, so that they know right off the bat and they're not spinning their wheels. So, you know, just good for you, TJ, for I hope you punked him. I hope he didn't even
Oh.
reply to you.
Oh,
My
both of you. I've asked that question. Give me a lane, give me a rate on these lanes, because here's why. If you're not in the market, I can't trust you anyways. If you come back with something that's maybe now I'm just using that to find out if you even know what the hell you're talking about. And
Paper rates.
I don't know if you're on the other end of the phone.
why would you want me to
and
quote
said,
lanes when you don't know anything about me? Like why would you want to know my rate is if you don't
I'm
even
finding out about you. Are you
don't know
in
my-
the market? Do you know what you're talking about? Because I know what I'm paying 5 days a week.
I've literally told you what I have equipment wise, right? The equipment I know you use and the way it works. Okay, this is a shipper that
Everybody's
this
got
is not
80,000
easy stuff.
trucks
Like
under
I know
contract.
the freight, you know the freight. I've laid it out for you that it's not easy, right? That you got to have things that go that way. But you don't want to get on the phone and for 10 minutes.
Nope.
Why?
Because I've got 100 of those calls. Everybody wants to. Can I have 15
You
minutes?
just
to
said
do
you'd
that?
set me
Can I
up.
have an
Like you just said,
exploratory
you looked
phone
at my
call?
overview. You liked what I have to offer. You're gonna set me up. You can't give me 5 minutes.
Not unless
We're
you
not doing
prove to
business.
me.
We're not
Okay.
doing business.
Then you
I'm
missed
sorry.
an
I'm
opportunity.
sorry. At the end of the day, my job, what I have to put out there is efficiency and production. And if I can't get a guy on the phone with me that's literally said he wants to set me up for 5 minutes, that right there is an indicator. That's my screening process.
Now, if you're a young
I'm
broker,
not saying you're doing it wrong because I'm not saying that everybody laid it out the way I did in this situation. And
I
I'm
don't
not
know
saying
the
that
details there, but I'm telling you,
and I
I've
know
used
you.
that
You
method
wouldn't respond the way he did either. What I'm saying is that that's still something that from the other side you got to look at because,
Sure.
especially in sales, young guys, like there's a sales quota to hit, but at the same time, like a lot of times when you land, like if you land an account in sales, you're stuck with that. Now you may have to deal with that and maybe go on to it and maybe not. Maybe they may even pull you out of sales just to work it as on the operations side. And now instead of if you would have passed on it, you could have landed a lot bigger one that had a lot more information, a lot more stuff for you to do.
but if I'm a young sales guy, I'm going to go ahead and take that setup, even if you don't want to talk to me, because you can still build trust and relationships through doing a good job, through picking up on time and communicating. So there's two sides of that. I applaud you.
My point was know your situation, right? In my situation, I've got equipment that is extremely expensive that's used a certain way that on certain type of freight that I'm not here. I don't have to get it. I don't have to have it, right? I don't have to get it moving. I just was something I figured we plug in to see on the network. Okay. So if you're a young salesperson, yes, you'd probably go with that, right? Get in and try to build that out because you've got nothing. Okay. But what I'm saying is, I guess that's my point is that that's where I think shippers are missing out on the people that are good. Because I think the people that are good, and if you want good carriers, they're asking those questions. They're trying to develop those things. And if you're not having those conversations, I think you miss out and you're just getting the rookies that are taking you because they want it. And I'll be honest with you, I think a lot of shippers like that because they've got power of them and it makes them feel good because they can tell them what to do and boss them around.
No, that's not it. We get 10 calls like that a day. We get 10 calls like that a day. And I'm trying to figure out whether or not you're the one of them smiling dial headset guys who's just cranking out numbers, or if you know what the hell you're talking about. And I'm going to ask you a couple of lanes to find out if you even know what the hell you're talking about.
Now, if I were a shipper and I had to do, a yearly where I onboarded or exited carriers, and I've seen it on LinkedIn, and I'm not a shipper, so I don't know if it works, but they say, hey, salespeople, I'm going to spend this week taking inbound calls. Hit me with your best shot. And then I'm sure they get an even much more of an influx.
No way, man.
what I've saw too is that, they give feedback. They take these calls for these young sales guys, and maybe they do find someone that fits in well. But as a shipper, it's just literally 10, 12, 15 calls a day. Or, how do you determine if it's somebody else calling or it's not a broker? You just pick them up.
Comment section.
And it also, I think it depends on how far along you are. Like in this situation, I was farther along. I literally sent my deck, everything was there for him to know in and outs. We actually had a conversation already at that point. So it's not just a random sales call. I think you understand, Tony. I know you. This situation.
No, TJ, I wasn't taking it as that at all. Trust me, I'm not.
But I agree with Brandon. If it was me, I'd say, listen, I'm going to open it up. Everybody, send me a presentation. I want to see your presentation.
Absolutely. If I'm a shipper, hit me with.
I've had people tell me like, hey, the reason I sent out such bit, I want to see who, the reason I sent out this lanes bit, this huge RFQ, is because I want to see who actually takes the time, who cares enough to take the time and make sure they quote these correctly, blah, blah, blah. Well, that's fine if you quote good. Oh, cool. You got a good guy that knows data. You may suck at operations. Hey, what about this? What about every one of you that send me a presentation? I want to see what type of work you put into that. I want to see what type of information you put into that. I want to see what do you call it? When you source. I want to see sources to the data. I want to see, like, where you got this data from, where this is at. Lay it out for me and impress me that way. That's how I do it, because I'd love to see that. What all do you offer? Lay it out for me, and how are you going to lay it out? Are you going to put time into it, or are you just going to slap it into a Snapchat thing and send it to me?
No, I'm laughing because you said Snapchat thing, not because of what you just said.
But if you could figure out how to do it in Snapchat, I'd actually be pretty impressed, because that is tough.
I'm just going to slap it into a Snapchat thing. No, you make a valid point.
My
Tony,
kids use the TikTok now.
I deleted all social media. I'm telling you,
Yeah,
I have LinkedIn, obviously, but I deleted the Facebook.
Here's my point. I like Tony. Okay, Tony, I actually agree with you. I actually agree with your process, because you're screening out front, right? You're screening right out front. You're not taking it down the road. So, like I said, in this situation, this was taken down the road, right? This was interest. Here's interest.
You had the warm and fuzzies,
right?
You had the warm and fuzzies.
Just a couple weeks worth of talking and going over and giving you data and everything, and then saying that.
That's a totally different situation.
Yeah, if you do it up front like that, I think that's the way to do it, because
I'm
it's
talking
efficient.
about hello.
Yeah. Hey, 20%. Mike Neem calls. What type of TMS you use? I can save you 20%, bro.
Mike's way better than that.
Hey, you young brokers, in 1 week, Tony will be taking presentations. He will be taking phone calls, and he wants you to give him
I'm deleting my social media.
PowerPoint only. 4 slides.
No way.
No animation.
Good stuff.
I know a guy who has a PowerPoint presentation that he gives to PACCAR, and they define the font, the background color, and how many lines and letters you can have on a slide.
He does what? He gives it to who?
PACCAR.
What's that?
Kenworth and Peterbilt.
Pat Carr? Is that a guy that works there?
PACCAR. PACCAR. That is the parent company of Kenworth and Peterbilt.
Write that down. That's a lead.
Hey, guys.
They tell them how to do it? Like, how many letters?
They tell you what font to use and what colors to use. You want to present.
This has been a great conversation. I don't know if you guys are ready to end it. I do have family that kind of surprised me, so I'm going to tend to them. So I appreciate you guys today. Great conversation. TJ, Rhonda, Tony, appreciate you guys. And for everyone watching out there, I'll see y'all next week, but I'm going to peace out.
God bless you.
All right. See you,
Brando.
bud.
Thanks, guys. Great job.
Good job, everybody.